Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Two-Headed Wolf Gaming Channel Last Epoch and the final episode from the Shaman with the Close Combat Spellcasting build. This experimental idea, which actually turned out fun, and I decided to pick as my very first character to take to the endgame. And I spent the last 2 days grinding the endgame, going through monoliths, trying to farm around, and just trying to figure out what is the endgame loop of Last Epoch. Because reason or the main reasons why I feel this is going to be the last episode for this build is because Last Epoch's endgame is not great yet. There's stuff to do, but there's no value in certain parts of it. So, for example, I believe you're going to get a lot more from the endgame experience if you are pushing it up to a certain point, at which moment you are not going to continue with the same character. Because you're going to get a lot of diminishing returns in a way that is not satisfying. So, if I take a build like this one and I push it up to this point, I can show you what you should be focusing on, what type of maps you should be running, or what you should be aiming for, at least for a while. And then my recommendation right now is that you should be picking another build, another character, and bring that one to the end game, and so on and so forth, until you've gained enough reputation for your faction. And we'll get into that in a second. Because pushing only one character into the end game right now means that you are going to grind a lot for very little, and there's no real reason why you would do that. You are not going to get enough gear until you've reached certain levels of reputation that really increases your power in a way that's satisfying. And as monsters around you and bosses become stronger, you might be getting better gear, yes, but it's not going to make that huge of a difference in clearing maps or in taking down bosses. And actually, one-shot mechanics are still present for many of the builds which I've seen. So with all of this in mind, know this is going to be the last episode. I'm going to explain things that I'm doing, choices that I've made, what you should be aiming for, and we're gonna have fun. We're gonna go on a few maps, we're gonna fight a boss, and I'm gonna show you why this character is fun. And then I'm going to make tomorrow or in the following days, let's say, I don't know exactly how much it will take me, maybe a day or two. I'm gonna put together a build guide to summarize all the choices and everything that I've done in from 10 episodes into half an hour episode or something like that. I'll see how efficient I can be in order to give you some reminders, or to put it in short, my thinking process behind every decision and how it's connected to itself. This is a very long intro, but I'm hoping that people who are like me are going to enjoy it, because I really feel like I found some good advice for you to better enjoy Last Epoch. And I think it's worth it. Let's talk character. And we'll start here with the items, then we're gonna move to passive and active skills, and finally we're gonna talk about blessings, where I've learned a lot more since the last episode, and I want to share with you because I feel it's an important part of this game, which might be slightly misunderstood the first time you're trying it out. But this is the character I'm running with at the moment. Since the last episode, I've been focusing on solutions for survivability. Somehow, with 1,000 health and with decent armor being around 30% here, and with resistances capped, I was still getting one shot or killed very quickly in many situations. And somehow that didn't sit well with me. I wanted to find a better solution for survivability, something that I could recommend and something that I could explain in a way where it can be easily understood, right? Why has this choice fixed this build, right? So that's what I've been focusing on. That's what I've been doing. Overall, you can see I'm at 1200 health at the moment. As far as resistances, I'm not capped on fire, but that is okay, because every time I'm putting down a totem, because I'm a shaman, I'm getting 50% extra resistances on elementals. So this is working well. Physical is not capped at the moment, but I would like to do that. I've been focusing on getting some void resistances as well, and it has been working pretty well. As far as armor goes, I've actually got lucky here, and I found a few pieces of gear which gave me a lot more armor than what I had before. This is what I've been running with for a very long time, a very bad piece of armor. However, I didn't find another body armor for a very long time that would give me enough strength to actually invalidate the physical resistance that I was getting from it. However, in the end, I found this body armor. It's giving us plus 16 strength. Strength is not really my focus. However, having the extra strength is also increasing armor by 4% per point of strength. So that is helping me in the long run. I'm getting also plus 1 to Gathering Storm and increased area of effect for area skills. Gathering Storm being our main skill, that extra point is actually of really good value, and we'll talk about it when we get to passive skill points and active skill points. And this one also gave me 43% increased armor and 64% necrotic resistance. Even though it has a bit more forging potential, there's nothing more that I can do with it. It's at max at the moment, so that's that. Then I found this helmet, where I have replaced this boar helmet right here, giving us 45% chance to gain a storm stack when you use Gathering Storm and hit an enemy. This ability to get storm stacks, meaning more storm bolts and all that. I really love this helmet. However, the one that I have equipped right now is giving me plus 8 to attunement, giving extra damage all around, and it's also giving me 50% critical strike avoidance. I want that. I felt like critical strikes were killing me a lot of the time, and this can be super valuable, especially later on in the game, as you are getting certain modifiers which increase the critical strike chance of enemies on you. Finally, I have this ring. I found it with plus 15 attunement. Not the craziest ring in the world, but because it had some attunement and it had some necrotic resistance and some void resistance, I just forged on it until I couldn't anymore. Felt like this was a good choice for a ring. Other than that, there's not a whole lot more to show. I'm still running this relic right here with plus 2 war cry. I'm going to show you where I spend those points, and that's about it. The gloves and the boots are nothing special at the moment. I have this pair of boots which I would really like to equip, plus 11 to attunement. I'm getting a lot more armor than the boots which I currently have equipped. Another 54 armor plus 19% reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes, so even if those reach us, we would still be in a better situation, and 29% increased armor. However, equipping these boots would push the fire resistance too low, where even if I have a totem, sitting at 72% resistances doesn't appeal to me too much. However, because I would get 5% more armor, I would really love to have these boots. So what I'm going to do is forge it in a way where I am not 100% sure if it's going to work, but I am going to try it. What I want to do here with the forging potential that I have is that I want to throw in this glyph of despair. Has a chance to seal an affix instead of upgrading it. The sealed affix is moved to its own slot, leaving its old slot open for you to add a new affix. Now I'm going to try to get vitality here. I'm going to try to see if I throw here vitality, and I'm also going to throw in a glyph of hope where we get 25% chance to not cost us forging potential. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try to upgrade it a few times. Okay, I got super lucky there. And actually, I got super lucky in a way that I can't do this anymore. And what I wanted to do instead was to get it to a higher tier, then throw this Glyph of Despair, hopefully lock this in, free this crafting slot, and then put something else on it, just to maximize the potential for losing that fire resistance. In this situation, I just got fully upgraded to tier 5, a lucky shot, so I can't do anything more. However, by equipping this, now I'm also getting a bit of extra health. Well, not exactly. Yeah, I am still losing 3 health because the boots had 50 health, but I am going to try it out. I'm going to see if I can work without a fire resistance on the maps, because it's not as important as armor. And we shall see if I need to throw back these boots and try a different crafting at a different point with different types of boots. But I just wanted to show you this experiment and how I've been crafting things. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Back to the grind. As far as idols go, I have this where I get increased cold and lightning damage. I like that. But I also have an 8% chance on hit to summon a Torn Totem. I found Torn Totems to be at least a good distraction for enemies, even if they don't do enough damage. And it's when I summon Torn Totems, automatically I'm also getting these resistances without me having to put down a Storm Totem. So overall, I think that is really good. This idol right here has a 30% chance on 10 or more mana spent to cast lightning at a nearby enemy. I'm doing a lot of lightning, so I like that. Plus another 40% increased minion critical strike chance. That is pretty good as well. This idol gives me 44% increased cold and lightning damage. This is what I'm equipping it for. I have an 8% chance to create an aftershock under an enemy on melee attack. Aftershock is sort of like the earthquake. It's sort of an explosion under the enemy with an AoE. It's physical damage, not something which I'm really scaling up, so once again, doesn't matter too much. I'm mostly here for the cold and lightning damage modifiers. And finally, I found this idol, which has a 16% chance to cast Maelstrom every 5 seconds. That's why you see a Maelstrom being casted automatically every once in a while here, plus some extra spell and minion damage. Overall, this is the gear which I've been running with, not the greatest in the world, but at this point, there is one problem here, and this is why I don't think you should be pushing your first character, maybe ever, or at least for a few years until we have a few leagues coming in. You should never push your first character to the end game and grind for it. If I take a look here in the Circle of Fortune, right, this is the faction. You see that I've been grinding out for quite a few levels. The last two, 35% chance to double rewards from Monolith Echoes, and uniques are twice as likely to have legendary potential. When you reach this level, you're still not getting the best gear in the world. At the next level, tier 7 affixes are twice as common. Tier 7, you cannot craft tier 6 affixes. Tier 7s are even more valuable. So valuable that I've put here a filter to show all affixes at tier 7. I think I've done this right. I hope I've done this right. But I want to see anything that is at tier 7, and so far I haven't seen this much. So you want to get this. Items that would drop as rare have a 25% chance to become exalted. When a set item would drop, the whole set drops. Items from prophecies are duplicated. So if you are here and you grind the end game with your first character, you have a very low chance to get your tier 7s. This is the reality of this situation, of this faction. So I believe it is better to bring your character as far as you can, as far as it is fun to do, as far as you have farmed your first monoliths to get what you care for, and then create another build. Go for another idea. Have fun pushing it to the end game. You can skip most of it. You'll have plenty of unique items to try out and combine and make a new build. And passively, once you get to monoliths and you start grinding for some other gear and you try to push it further and further, you're gonna quote unquote passively get this experience, and you are going to level up your faction to a level, maybe to level 10, at which point you can return to your first build and at least you haven't gotten fully bored of it because you weren't getting good upgrades, right? So this is my advice to you. Don't push it further than blessings. Blessings are right here. This is things which you've seen me pick whenever I have fought a boss. Right? Whenever I was fighting a boss, I had a choice between 3 blessings. There were a bunch more undiscovered blessings which you haven't seen, and I haven't seen either because I haven't really grinded bosses. But the way it works here in the monoliths is that you start down here, right? You start at the end of time, you go in your first monolith, you run the monolith, and let me go to it. You run the monolith, you run a couple of maps. You shouldn't do the secondary objectives, to be honest. However, you go through here, then you're doing these quests, and whenever you defeat the boss right here, you get another choice between 3 blessings. Now, these blessings make your builds. On the right side, you will get blessings which add to your character stats. For example, I'm getting 1.8% of spell damage each as health. The range would be between 1.2 and 2. So this is like a drop that happens when you're fighting a boss. This one shreds lightning resistance. This one over here gives me critical strike avoidance. This one over here gives me 50% more armor. Now I could get up to 24% if I have a good run, and so on and so forth. So the right side, this right side here is with stats. The left side will give you modifiers to things that you will drop while running the monoliths. Now you can have only one of these blessings per each one of these slots. Together, they will be adding up to bonuses up here. If you're looking for something in particular, you might want to grind multiple bosses from this and just try to figure out, hey, what else would I want instead? For example, here, maybe I don't like Spell Leech. Well, I am going to run the Black Sun. I am going to go here to the Black Sun, and I'm going to grind through these levels, fight the boss when I'm reaching this level, right? This unlockable here. And then, by luck, I'm gonna get one of three choices from these blessings. Right? So then I can figure out, well, what does my build need? Maybe I want the health instead. Or maybe getting extra critical strike chance is what I would like to do. So you have to focus on this. For me at the moment, I've looked at, and I'll put down in the description below, I will set wherever there is a picture, and I think it's from Reddit, where it says all the modifiers that you have from each one of these monoliths. And you can figure out what you want and where you should farm, where you should kill the boss multiple times to get exactly what you want. But this is what you want to do in the endgame. This is pretty much what I feel you should be doing in the endgame. So you're going for monoliths. You are going to the right here, and you are going to farm this area just to get these modifiers. Now, if you're looking for an item to drop, you can go to the left and you can go to target farm certain items which you particularly want or you want to focus on. But once you get up here and you've done these 3 monoliths, which are at level 90, you get this opening here in the middle, you build a bridge and you go to it, and at that point you can go your empowered monoliths, which people said, looking on the internet, people said that you should pretty much keep the normal ones, go quickly through it, and get to the empowered ones. Well, my experience has been that you need to level up your character and make a good build or have good items on you before you go to empowered, because you can get killed fairly easy, fairly quick if you haven't fully figured it out, and it can be pretty frustrating and annoying. Now, with that in mind, this is all you need to know about maps, right? Focus on the right side for blessing in order to improve your character strength, and then grind out until you feel you have enough power to push towards the center here, fight all these bosses, and get empowered monoliths, at which point you get better drops. Whew. Next, skills. Final part here. For Gathering Storm, I really enjoyed getting the +1 to Gathering Storm here from the armor. I will tell you what, this extra point, I didn't know until now, but really makes sense if I go for this choice right here, the Typhoon. You have increased global stun chance and additional freeze rate multiplier per active storm stack up to a maximum. So I'm getting 15% extra stun chance per point per storm stack. That is actually really cool. Up to a maximum of 10, that's 150% extra stun chance, and not only that, 150% freeze rate multiplier. So this is a great modifier for our defenses, and I really wanted to pick this up. I feel like this is going to make such a huge difference whenever we're fighting on the map on stunning enemies and surviving. This is going to be great for us. Now, as far as passives go, what I have done in order to focus on defenses was to look first of all at getting some flat health. Here is each one of these points in Tempest form gave me plus 10 health. I felt like that was really good. Plus extra chance to shock and chill, so that is good defense. I liked to invest a bunch of points over there. Then I also started investing in Earthen Supremacy for that extra attunement, which gives us extra damage, plus 40 to stun avoidance, and each point gives us an extra 10 points of stun avoidance. That's really good for us not to get rushed. And increased stun chance 40%, each point giving us an extra 10% to stun chance. And this brought me to 58%, and that has made a huge difference. Actually, there are two main defensive choices which I've made, which made a huge difference, and one which didn't. This is the first one. Getting increased stun chance, especially in melee, has helped me tremendously to survive. I feel like if I invested in this a lot earlier than in some other areas, this could have made the whole experience in the past episodes a lot better. So keep in mind throwing in some stun chance as well. The second choice which I've done, which really added to the survivability of this build, is Hunter's Restoration. You have increased health, and every 3 seconds your next hit restores your health. So each one of these points offered me 2% extra health, and every 3 seconds I'm getting 40 health restored. This, once again, increased my health, gives me some passive healing, and it has been awesome, especially in combination with 1 point of Hunter's Emanation, where the minions are also receiving the 40 heal from this ability, from this maximized ability, and they also get a bit of extra damage, but that doesn't matter. The reason why this has helped me a lot is because you know how the crows kept dying? Well, with this ability, they're not dying as often. They rarely actually fall down, and most of the time they stay with me, meaning that I'm constantly getting buffed by spells, and there's really no more problem with the crows dying out and me losing a lot of strength. And I feel like that problem has been fixed. So I've also tried, final thing that I've tried and it actually didn't work was to go over here where I'm getting increased health regeneration and getting some leech in melee combat. This was not nearly enough to make a difference. I've ran with it, I've tried to push as many points into it rather than this one, and it didn't work as well. Probably because I'm not really scaling health leech, but just so you know, I wouldn't personally recommend it in this build in my situation. So for now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to push this even further. I'm going to get extra attunement, meaning extra spell damage, and increase stun chance to 60%. That brings us to 78% plus whatever we're going to get from storm stacks, and that is going to be good enough. It's time to run a map, and at this point we're gonna go for the empowered monoliths. The area level will be at 100. I think it can show off the power of this build and how stable it is when you are at level 89 and with the gear that I've showed you and with the choices that I've made. And then we're gonna go through these skills just to see what it unlocks whenever we're fighting this boss. So let's go over here. As you can see, the modifiers that I have running for this monolith at this point is extra frenzy and haste when enemies are getting hit, 35% chance to shred armor on hit for the enemies, so that is a bit unfortunate, we'll have to be careful with that, and 60% more health and damage for enemies. That is quite high. You will see them being tanky, but it's just because of this modifier, and I am thinking, let me go with another 30% here increased health. That might be a dumb thing to do, but doesn't matter too much. Let's try it out. Let's see how it works. Because for right now, I feel like this build is in a good situation. And it leaves me enough space to move on to a next build. And maybe when I maximize the faction, I can find some good items for this character. Or even better items, like these high level items, tier 7 things, which will make me want to return to this build. Overall, this map might be a bit tricky for us, but as you can see in the top left, I am summoning those thorn totems as well, so I'm getting good resistances here and there. As per always, or as per usual, you shouldn't be sitting too much in AoEs, they are quite bad for your health. But at the same time, you can see that I'm not getting instantly killed anymore. It still happens on the odd occasion. And many times I am not really sure what exactly happened. But in this situation, since all of these monsters are super fiery and they have this area of effects, I think it's pretty much going to be a situation where I should be moving around a bit more and make sure that I don't sit like an idiot exactly on top of an AoE. Remember that the advantage for this build is that once I am getting these gathering storms, or as long as I am moving around and doing a few melee hits here and there, I don't need anything more than that, because lightning bolts will start dropping whenever I have 6 maelstroms, which I can get simply by doing a war cry whenever I have it out of cooldown. It's going to drop lightning bolts. 6 stacks of maelstrom is gonna drop lightning bolts on the nearby enemies where I don't have to be in melee combat with them. Giving a few hits here and there with Gathering Storm is going to drop lightning bolts on the nearby enemies without us having to touch them. Using the Tempest Strikes will throw in, of course, once we hit enemies, we'll throw tornadoes, we'll do ice shots, we'll do all sorts of things to enemies at range, so I don't have to. Overall, there's a lot we can do. We have a lot of options. Being a close combat spellcaster gives us the liberty to not stay in close combat whenever it's not ideal to do so anymore, and it's going to help us make progress. And look at this, even with those high levels of modifiers, we've just cleared the map. And at this point you can do two things. You can try to get bonus stability here, but the way to grind bosses in order to unlock those blessings, you don't have to do this. You can get out of here, you can leave this area, and that will be totally fine. Totally fine. There is a reason why you might not want to do that. Let's see, physical damage with Swarm and extra spell damage with totems. No. The reason why you might want to get this extra stability here, extra bonus stability, is because if you don't, you will have to run many more maps in order to get the same amount of stability, which means that there will be even more modifiers added to the enemy modifiers here. So every time you're going to run this, for example, it's going to add up more and more to the enemy modifiers. I believe that that's how it works. Maybe it doesn't, maybe this is just modified by corruption. I might be mistaken on that, but maybe it's just one of those things where you're just getting more stability from bonus. Maybe I am going a bit too far with this theory. Either way, let's see. So I've done that. Now let's fight the boss at level 100 and show off what this build can do in its current state. What I'm doing right now is post-recording commentary, as at the time I felt I had to focus on the fight. Plus, I wasn't too coherent in the ideas I was sharing, even though the subject was important, and so I decided let's leave it till afterwards. I grabbed myself a cup of coffee, and I really want to talk about fighting bosses at level 100. Because this is an important subject for anyone who has found a build that they love, right? This is the ultimate challenge for right now in Last Epoch, fighting level 100 bosses, plus you get those empowered blessings, which improve your character even further, and thus, this is something that you'll want to do. So, how does it feel to fight level 100 bosses when you are level 89 with not the best in slot gear? Even though I have 1200 health, 49% armor, and maximum resistances, there are bosses which are very annoying to fight. There are bosses like the Leech with the necrotic and cold damage, which for some reason, I don't know if we have the perfect build for them, or maybe that boss is bad, but you'll have pretty much no problem fighting it. You won't even die, most likely. But fighting a boss like Raya here, 4 out of his 5 attacks are pretty much instant kill. Plus there are these glitches like you've seen just now, where the boss disappears or part of the bosses disappear and you don't know what's happening. Plus there are movements which don't correspond with the attacks which are about to happen, and add all that together, you're gonna die, you're gonna feel frustrated, and it's pretty much not your fault in many ways. Sure, if you have better gear you can survive for longer, but that is not really the great advice when there are bugs, right? So I spent a lot of time. I fought a lot of level 100 bosses just trying to figure out what advice could I give you, what information could I share with you that it would improve your overall experience of playing Last Epoch or playing this build. And I found a few ideas that I'm excited to share with you. I know my videos are very talky, not the best format for YouTube, and I'll work on improving the overall experience, but I'm really hoping that this information is going to be useful for you, or at least entertaining. So, what can you do? Well, first of all, to prepare for these bosses, what you can do is you can go to the non-empowered monoliths. And even if you push them at maximum corruption of 50, which increases the health of the boss and everything like that, you're gonna be totally fine. With the build in its current state, many of the attacks that the bosses have will never instant kill you anymore, and thus it gives you a bit more space to learn how they move, what attacks they do, what do they say, and things like that. Plus it gives you a chance to get better rolls on those blessings while fighting them, and thus improving your character and prepare you for the level 100. That's the first advice. Second advice, things which I've seen on the internet would be to, for example, instead of specking into armor or certain health or things like that, you could spec into dodge. Dodge gives you, with the right roll, the ability to pretty much annul the entire attack of the instant kill. However, you have to roll right, and I haven't built this character around dodge, so that's not the best advice for me. The second thing which you can do, which actually feels close to the build, is get a lot of movement speed on the boots, so that you can move very quickly in and out of these AoEs, or second of all, you can get a traversal skill. However, traversal skills you need to specialize in to reduce their cooldown, because they have very long cooldown. Using it to jump from one attack in the other side of the map can still mean that you're gonna get hit by the second attack and pretty much kill you while you wait for the traversal skill to be on cooldown. So that is not the perfect solution either. But the ultimate solution which I found for this build, and maybe not only for this build, but this is the ultimate advice that I'm going to give you, is despecialize, and I'm going to show it on the screen, despecialize out of Warcry being cast automatically on critical hit. That is absolutely great for running maps because it also casts Maelstroms, heals you, stuns enemies, and it's perfect for clearing. But one of the things that Warcry do, and you can go back in the video and see, is Warcry annuls 2 of the 5 attacks that Raya does. Basically, that very large AoE that he does, and the dive bomb, which is a very quick attack with a smaller AoE, but still enough to catch you on most occasions. If you do the Warcry manually, and you don't have it on cooldown because it was automatically cast at the wrong moment, you are going to cancel so many attacks, and not only from Raya, from many other bosses. Test them out early. Trust me, this is the ultimate solution for surviving these boss battles if you are not a quick character. And now you can see on the screen, defeating this boss at level 100, that gives me the opportunity to get better blessings, better rolls, improve your character overall. But yeah, do that. Use Warcry, use it properly, change it there, and yes, you have to spec in and out depending on what the bosses require. With this in mind, the build is complete. At this point, it's just about grinding gear. I have all the tactics for fighting all of the bosses. I'll work on summarizing and putting together a build guide with everything that we've done over 10 episodes, but that's going to be it. If you have any feedback for me, leave it down in the comments below. If you like what I've done here, leave a like, helps me, helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more, and I'm looking forward to the next character. And until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I wish you all to have a wonderful day.